what are you doing? You've been there for 4 hours.
Well, Ben, I'm actually gaming. I'm playing Genshin Impact on my Red Magic 5S gaming phone. Thank you very much!
Now, I've never used a gaming phone before, but I had no idea how much better the Red Magic 5S was going to be. I tried Genshin Impact on my old phone, and that thing took forever to load, it was laggy, it got hot, and with the Red Magic 5S, it's got a much better processor, it stayed cool because it's got a way better cooling system, like night and day, and even though I was gaming that thing for multiple hours, the battery on it was insanity. The only thing cooler than me is this phone. The only thing smoother than me is this phone. The only thing more camera than me... Wait, that doesn't even work. The phone also has triggers built in, which I think is pretty wild. So if you're playing a game like PUBG, right, you've got those triggers built in. And I think that's a huge advantage over other phones. Instead of tapping the screen, you've got those triggers built in, and that's going to be amazing, especially if you don't want to buy an adapter or controller of some sort for your phone. If you're looking for a new phone and you're into gaming, consider the Red Magic 5S. Click the link down below if you want to buy one yourself or learn more, and thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into the content. It took me about 5 minutes to realize that Xinyan was going to be one of the strongest supports Genshin Impact has ever seen. Not only can she debuff enemies and cause more physical damage upon them, she can buff the physical damage of people like Razor and Xiangling or herself. On top of this, she absolutely destroys and dominates and makes cryo shields cry. One of the fastest, safest shield breakers in the game, and you can even make her a carry with almost 100% attack speed uptime if you're interested. Now, she does require some constellations if you want to make her absolutely OP, but even at base level, base constellation, she is such a good support. I've fallen in love with her. So let's get started and let's talk about why she's so damn good. Hey everyone, MTash here, and today I want to talk about Xinyan because she is nuts. She is one of the best supports in the game. However, there's a bit of a disclaimer. She's very focused on physical damage. If you're using someone like D-Luke, who is constantly using pyro attacks, she's not going to be as valuable. If you're using someone like Shang, who uses mostly cryo damage, it's not going to be as valuable. But Xinyan, when she supports Xiangling, is unbelievably good, especially if you're using the Crescent Pike. Now, if you're using Razor, oh my god, this might be one of the strongest combos in the game. Let me explain. Now, I want to start off on a base level without any constellations, because I know that many people won't have constellations for any of the characters I talk about. But I do want to talk about how insane things start ramping up if you do, especially if you have Xinyan Constellation 4 and Razor Constellation 4. It is one of the best combos in Genshin Impact. So let's start off with Xinyan, no constellations, and let's talk about why she's so good. Sweeping Fervor is her basic ability, and depending on how many enemies you hit, you're actually going to get a shield. And if you can hit 3 enemies, you're going to get an area of effect fire shield that will repeatedly pulse. This is great for breaking shields in the Spiral Abyss, but also this is going to remove your debuffs if you haven't debuffed. So if you've got a ice debuff on you and you pop this, it will clear it, which is amazing for the Spiral Abyss. Now, Riff Revolution is a multi-hit pyro attack. It's got a lot of physical damage baked in, but because it is pyro and ticks multiple times against something like the Cryo Regisvine, if against an Abyss Mage, a Cryo Abyss Mage, the Fatui enemies, this is great for peeling off shields and bursting them down. Now, her first passive is where the value starts to really sink in because it requires 1 less enemy to hit to generate the maximum shield. That means that pretty much every time you're hitting an enemy, you're going to get a stronger shield, and chances are you're going to be able to group up 2 enemies and get the maximum one and those pyro pulses. But this final one, now that's a rock and roll. Now that's a lot of damage! When you're shielded, you're going to get a 15% increased physical damage buff. Now, with the constellations, if you get the constellations, you are now going to have 2 different ways to max out your shield, and this is going to be, again, almost 100% uptime. This is something that is super valuable to your team, and if you are using Razor and Xiangling, they're just getting stronger. Now, her first ability is interesting. If you did want to build her as a full-on main DPS, you could make it work because she's going to have pretty much 100% uptime on this, getting a big boost to her attack speed. But if you do build her as a DPS, this next one is insanity. But even if you don't, it's insanity. Now, Riff Revolution, her ultimate ability, gains 100% crit rate, which is like one of the biggest boosts to DPS of any passive I've seen from a constellation. But the big one here is it also will form a maxed out shield. That is like 190% or 180% of your defense value, and there's a base amount as well. And so pretty much on command, you have access to a very beefy shield. You're doing a bunch of damage with it, and whether you're a support or you are a main DPS, this is going to be great. Now, the next one is just leveling up your Sweeping Fervor ability, but Wildfire Rhythm is just, okay, it's time to stop. This is getting too nutty. When you use Sweeping Fervor, which is her E ability, it's going to debuff the enemies, and it's going to reduce their physical resistance by 15% for 12 seconds. That is a huge amount of time. This is, again, something that you would have pretty much complete 100% uptime on because of the cooldown of her ability. This is amazing. If you look at Razor's debuff ability on his C4, it's only like 7 seconds. Now, you can spam his ability, so it's not that big of a deal. But this is going to be very valuable because it's going to buff characters like Xiangling or Razor that do a bunch of physical damage. Now, C6 is very interesting, and honestly, if you are a support, it might even be better because it gives you 50% of her defense value as a bonus. So what you could do is stack a bunch of defense on her and make her shield stronger, and then you're going to get a hit of damage here. I think that's pretty cool overall. I don't think it's necessary. C4 is where it's at, and this is where she starts becoming really OP. Now, if you want to use Xinyan as a support and want a main DPS, Razor is on the banner, so he's really accessible to get, but he's also got physical damage built into his kit. He's got a bonus built into his kit, and you can get more from his cup. On top of this, if you did wish a bunch on this banner, and you've got C4, you have now made one of the best combos for debuffing in the game. You're going to get a 12-second debuff on their physical resistance, which is going to directly buff Razor. But if he has C4, he's going to reduce their defense value. Now, these are two different debuffs. The defense reduces their defenses to everything, and the physical is directly on his physical damage. So you're actually going to stack both of those and get a huge boost to damage. It's not even funny. Now, you might not have a bunch of constellations. You might not even get Razor. Maybe you're really unlucky with characters. But another character that's super strong is Xiangling with the Crescent Pike. Now, this is a physical damage weapon, and it does additional attacks. This thing right here, every time you get an elemental orb, you're going to get additional hits every time you basic attack. And this weapon is awesome if you're looking to just dish out some normal damage and physical damage. And so debuffing the enemy with Xinyan, or just simply buffing the physical damage output of your team, is going to make Xinyan one of the best supports in the game for these 4-star characters. Now, because they are rate up, I would really try to hunt for these two. If you did save Primo Gems, if you're looking for a 4-star DPS, that's awesome. But there are people that are saying that Zhang Li, whatever his name is, they're saying that he's not good. I think that he's a decent 5-star, and I think that he does have some potential. He might not have the best ratios, and he is Geo, which is one of the weaker elements. But if you were to use Zhang Li, let's say you got him, right? You're using his shields, you're using her shields. There's a lot of safety in that as well, so it's not the end of the world if you end up getting him as a 5-star. You can still throw him into your team and do really well. Now, as for weapons, unfortunately, I don't have anything really crafted. I've got the one prototype Aminus, and I don't have any other 4-star Claymores, but I have a couple of recommendations. So the White Iron Greatsword, if you are going support, if you want to just stack some defense to get bigger shields, that is cool. It's going to give you that percentage defense. If you're not basic attacking a lot, if you don't care about damage, that's cool. But I think the weapon I would go for is the Sacrificial Greatsword, and I'm going to show you the Sacrificial Sword. Xing Cho has it. It would have the exact same passive as this. After damaging an opponent with an elemental skill, the skill has a 40% chance to end its own cooldown. So that would be extremely good. It would allow you to use your E ability, shield up, and hopefully reset that cooldown. And if you had multiple copies of it, that percentage is just going to go up and up and up. This would be very, very valuable for your team, and I think that would be probably my favorite if I was trying to make her my main kind of support. And if you don't have a lot of resources, the white iron will do great. But if you do have a claymore that you want to craft, I've got another one that's going to be fantastic. So the white blind is a claymore that you can craft, whether you've got some prototypes left over or if you get lucky from a boss. This is something you could consider. Now, the prototype Amethyst is a better weapon for multiple characters in the game because it has the attack and it's got a pretty good passive. But if you are using Xinyan long term and you are making her main support, I would consider crafting this. I am consider crafting this. I'm waiting until the banner is over because I'm using every single Primo Gem I can on the banner to try to get Razor and Xinyan constellations. So I'm waiting until the very last moment before I craft this, so I'm kind of hindering myself for the next 20 days not getting it, but this weapon will be amazing. Now, if you do get another weapon, if there's another drop that you get, that's cool. Again, Sacrificial Greatsword I think is going to be one of the best, but this white blind is going to be really good for her as well so that her shields hit hard. If you've got C6, I would absolutely craft this 100%, get that defense scaling, make her tanky, buff her shields, and you're going to be buffing her damage with her burst ability. Now, as for sets, it really depends how you want to use her. If you wanted to build her as a main DPS with the white blind, this set is incredibly good synergy. It would increase your shield strength by 35%, and if you've got the constellations able to proc shields multiple ways, you would essentially have 100% uptime on the normal and charged attack damage, but you'd also just have really beefy shields for your team. So this would be a really good set, even if you wanted to just mix and match a few. I would mix and match as a support. What I would do is I would get a 2-piece set of this to buff the shields, and then I would use something like the Exile set just to get a couple more cooldowns. There's multiple ways you could buff this. You could also use something like the Noblesse where the elemental burst damage is increased, but I honestly think I would rather have the cooldowns more than anything, and that shield strength I think is too good to miss out on. Now, if you are going main DPS, you obviously need to level up all of the skills, right? You got to get your main attack going and all the other ones. But if you're going support, you might actually only need to level up the shield ability. Because even if you do get constellations like the second one, which is going to be giving you the crit rate and the extra shield forming, if you want her to just be a shield bot and all she does is shield everything, you can do that and just focus on her shield ability. Now, I recommend with any character, get their abilities leveled up and get the value there. I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you're really short, I would make sure that shield is hitting, or I guess is really beefy first, and then focus on Riff Revolution as well. Again, main DPS has to have everything, but it is what it is. And I guess one other thing is, unfortunately, if you want her to be this super debuffing character, it does require quite a bit of investment. Now, you don't have to level up to 70 to get this, you just have to do the ascension from level 60 to 70, so you can save some resources there if you don't want to fully level her up. In my case, what I'm planning on doing is leveling her up, getting this talent, and then just leaving her at that level. I'm just going to get this passive unlocked so that I can debuff enemies and then swap over to Razor and do all of my damage, and that's the way I'm planning on using her. But the combo of Xinyan, Razor, Xinyan, Xiangling, these are fantastic. Highly, highly recommend them. And that's pretty much it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon, my friends. Bye-bye.